What comes to mind when I say football? Maybe the blue and white of Argentina or the yellow of Brazil. But what about the deserts of Arabia? We know they have oil. We know they have money. But now they also have football. The Saudi Pro League is the talk of the town. They have signed some big names, and I mean big. The latest is Brazilian star Neymar. He will be playing for Hilal of the Saudi League. Guess how much he's being paid for this? $100 million per year. Sums up Saudi Arabia's plan to dominate football. Make a deal they can't refuse. Let me show you what the roster looks like. The biggest name is Cristiano Ronaldo. He plays for Al Nassr. Then you have Karim Benzema, N'Golo Kante, Fabinho, Sadio Mane, Riyadh Mahrez. These are all the biggest names in football. All of them play in Saudi Arabia now. And age is an issue here. Most of these players are past their prime, but Saudi Arabia would not mind that. Their primary focus is attention and popularity. Quality can follow. Just think about it. I'm sure some 20-year-old wonder kid from Brazil can outplay Mane or Ronaldo. But who would you pay to watch? A would-be talent or Cristiano Ronaldo? That's what Saudi Arabia is counting on. They have a great market for football. Around 70% of the population is under 35 years of age. They're young and they like the game. Plus, they're affluent. They can afford expensive tickets. So financially, it makes all the sense in the world. Football is part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030. He wants to shift the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia away from fossil fuels. Football could be one way. He has set some targets as well. One is to triple the league's market value to reach $2 billion in valuation. For context, the English Premier League is worth $17 billion, so it is a long way to go. The second target is quality. The Saudi League ranks 58th on football quality. MBS wants to break into the top 10. Again, a long way to go. But Saudi Arabia's football ambitions are not just financial, it's more political. You normally associate this country with three things: desert, oil, and a lack of human rights. MBS wants to change that perception. He wants his country to become a global stage, not just for sports, but for everything. This month, they hosted peace talks, a peace dialogue to end the war in Ukraine. Imagine that, a peace talk in Saudi Arabia. MBS wants his country to become the go-to place for football, for technology, for diplomacy, for everything. Is that really a good thing? We'll get to that question later. First, let's focus on Saudi Arabia's plan. How will they challenge the well-established leagues of Europe? They're thinking of 3 steps. They're on the first step right now, getting the big names. Unlike in Europe, Saudi Arabia does not have spending limits. It's a seemingly bottomless pit of money. Clubs can pay as much as they want. It also helps that 4 of the biggest clubs are owned by the sovereign fund, meaning the royal family. This equation helps to remove roadblocks. Consider what happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. He has a long-time partner, but he's not married to her. Now, normally Saudi Arabia would frown upon this. You can't live in with your partner in this country. But Ronaldo is doing exactly that. How is he doing it? Because the royal family has exempted him. Step number 2 is infrastructure. Top players need top stuff, whether it's gyms or stadiums or playing services, they need the best of them. Saudi Arabia is building those too. Since 2021, they have invested $6 billion on sports infrastructure. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but the Saudi Sovereign Fund manages $600 billion. They must have barely noticed the $6 billion bill. All these investments are aimed at Saudi Arabia's grand plan to host the FIFA World Cup. Reports say they could bid for the 2030 edition, the 2030 FIFA World Cup. If they do, expect Qatar on steroids. And unlike Qatar, Saudi Arabia, in fact, has a good team. They defeated Argentina in last year's World Cup, the only team to do so, which brings us to the final step, and that is appeal. People won't come just for football. They need to feel safe and welcomed in the country. How do you do that? By making footballers say and do the right things. Lionel Messi is the ambassador for Saudi tourism. Ronaldo is effectively ambassador for the Saudi League. His team won the Arab Club Championship last week. You should have seen Ronaldo's reaction. He was calling the club owners on the field, clicking pictures with them. It felt like he'd won the Champions League. And that's what Riyadh wants. The kingdom knows that there is stigma. People are apprehensive about traveling to Saudi Arabia. Unless that changes, they cannot become a footballing power. And whether you like it or not, there are two sides to this story. Saudi Arabia could make football more accessible to a lot of people. Think of Ronaldo and Ronaldo fans in Bangladesh or Indonesia. How many of them could have flown to Italy or Spain to see him play? Very few. But Saudi Arabia seems more achievable. It brings football closer to the biggest market in the world, and that market is Asia. Having said that, it's problematic too. Saudi Arabia is a closed society with few human rights. If you talk about their football, you're not talking about their rights. It's called sports washing. Using sports to cover up your problems. China does it, Qatar does it, and Saudi Arabia is doing it now. And yet there is a difference. No one is spending the sort of money that Riyadh is. And they have to. If you're challenging centuries-old football leagues, you need big pockets. You also need patience. The Premier League was not built in a day, and neither will the Saudi League. But write them off at your own risk. The world did the same during Saudi Arabia's golf takeover, and look what happened. They've effectively bought global golf. Money may not catapult Saudi Arabia to football superpowerdom, but it will make their journey a lot easier.